friend and 3 collaborators, we decided to write about it because women are not visible enough in the cultural heritage of Bosnia and Herzegovina. They're not there in terms of the names of the schools, names of squares, streets, and in general, we don't know much about what women were doing in our history. We have very segmented information. It's based on some of the women. Then we also have information that's hard to fact check, so you're not, sure if you're actually, if it's all true. So it was an initiative that was supposed to really bring women back to the radar, especially women that are no longer with us. Some of them, like for hundreds of years now, that are no longer with us. To showcase what they were doing, to do a really serious fact-based research on their lives, and to also have this artistic component of it. So we invited 50 women illustrators to make the illustrations of the women, thereby tying together their biographies and the artwork also of the Bosnian illustrators. So it was overall an initiative that was really meant to put her story back into the center of attention. It's been 5 years since we published the book. By now we have a second edition as well, and also a translation in English. So it's been, like a long road, but we're happy to see it used. Still, we're happy to see that people are inspired to do their own initiatives based on the book, such as this one. So it's really a great feeling to see that people are still resonating with the book and using it for their own creative project or researches or whatever else.
Adela Behr je krenula na školovanje kada je prema tadašnjem popisu stanovništva u Bosni i Hercegovini 1910. godine bilo čak 80% nepismenih ljudi. Možemo zamisliti, dakle, koliko je ona bila motivirana i koliko je željela, dakle, da sebe osposobi, da uči i da se razvija i da postane u stvari jedna od prvih ženskih intelektualki u to vrijeme, prva ženska slikarica. Ostatak, dakle, pismenog stanovništva, statistika navodi da je samo 1/4 žena, dakle oko 40.000 je bilo pismenih žena 1910. godine u Bosni i Hercegovini. Naša Adela Behr, nažalost, u sredini u kojoj je živjela i u kojoj je djelovala, nikada nije dobila priliku za stalno zaposlenje, nikada nije dobila svoj lični atelje i vrlo često je radila u jako teškim uslovima. Ona najveći svoj doseg je pokazala u grafici, dakle umjetnosti grafike, i da ona često je radila u lošim uslovima. Dakle, nije imala adekvatnu grafičku presu, radila je često na jako malim formatima papira koje je znala štampati sa jedne i sa druge strane, ali to je nije spriječilo da te njene rane grafike iz druge decenije 20. stoljeća zaista budu među vrhunskim majstorskim dometima grafičkog izraza u regionu između dva svjetska rata.
Kako je njen privatni život utjecao na stvaralaštvo?
Pa evo, vidimo od najranijeg doba, dakle, da je otac želio da je usmjeri u drugom smjeru, dakle, da bude predavač, da bude učiteljica, međutim ona nije odustala od svog prirodnog poziva slikarice koji je jako rano osjetila i sva sreća pa je odlučila, da kažemo, na jedan teži način da se bori da zauzme svoje mjesto na umjetničkoj, intelektualnoj, kulturnoj sceni tadašnje Bosne i Hercegovine. Imamo podatak da se od 1920. godine uz njeno ime vezuje i ime Jelena. Dakle, ona se je udala 1920. godine za pravoslavca i formalno je, dakle, morala promijeniti vjeru i promijenila je i to svoje ime. Dakle, Adela dodala je ime Jelena. Njeno prezime nakon toga, dakle, bilo je Behr. Ali mislim da nije dozvolila da to utiče na njen likovni umjetnički izraz. Jer njen izraz možemo pratiti, na primjer, kroz 3 motiva kojima ona ostaje dosljedna do kraja svog života. Dakle, to su pejzaži koje prvenstveno možemo pratiti iz njene prve drvarske faze, dakle od 1924. do 1934. godine, gdje ona podređuje crtež boji, dakle boja ima samostalnu funkciju i jako naglašenu ekspresivnost. I upravo u tim pejzažima ona u stvari nekako prikazuje lokalno podneblje, lokalni ambijent, ali uz internacionalne forme. To je možda i nekako njen unutrašnji sukob između onoga što je osjetila studirajući u Evropi, dakle tu jednu progresivnost, jedan napredak i otvorenost, a s druge strane njenu želju i potrebu da se vrati korijenima, da se vrati ambijentu u kojem je rođena i u kojem je odrasla. Zatim tu imamo portrete iz najranije faze, dakle od 1912. godine, koji su u tehnici ugljena, gdje ona već ispoljava jaku psihologizaciju lika. Dakle, to je kod likovnih umjetnika, da kažemo, jako bitan kvalitet kada on može da prodre u psihologiju čovjeka. Ne dakle da ga samo ilustruje, već da da naznake onome kakav je taj čovjek, kako je njegovo trenutno emotivno stanje. Dakle, imala je tog senzibiliteta, tako da kažemo, da osjeti drugu osobu i njegovu energiju. Jedan od najznačajnijih portreta je u stvari njen autoportret iz 1933. godine, gdje zapažamo taj jedan intimistički pristup kroz blage linije lica i kroz pastuozni nanos boje, ali vidimo i tu njenu sjetu, dakle, na njenom licu, upravo iz razloga što joj okruženje i okolina ne dozvoljavaju da se ona ispuni kao slikarica do kraja. I treći segment, jedan zaseban umjetnički medij kojem je ona zaista dala najveći domet je upravo grafika. Najviše se bavila drvorezom, ukupno 50 godina svog života se bavila grafikom i drvorezom. Dakle, ljudi na njenim grafikama nikada nisu izolovani. Uvijek je prikazana neka društveni fluid i u stvari uticaj okoline koji te tjera da se prilagodiš. Ono što je interesantno za njene grafike jeste da su u ranoj fazi imali uticaj te secesije koju je ona u stvari usvojila u ženskoj umjetničkoj školi u Beču, koja se može primijetiti na apstrahovanim i stilizovanim floralnim motivima koje mi na grafikama poput na kupanju i sa sobunara možemo primijetiti u motivima grana drveća koji se poput arabeski protežu kroz cijelu grafiku. Kasnije je uočen utjecaj ekspresionizma, kao što je grafika muslimanke, dakle koja prikazuje žene provincije i tu neku njihovu ta grafika dakle prikazuje veći broj žena koje su pokrivene i kao da su u grupi, kao da su istomišljenice i one nadiru prema prvom planu grafike. Ali ona na kraju uspijeva osvojiti, da kažemo, svoj individualni umjetnički izraz. Uspjela je da se otrese i utjecaja secesije i utjecaja ekspresionizma i na kraju je našla svoj lični likovni izraz koji je snažno obojen realizmom, ali isto tako i podnebljem u kojem je živjela i u kojem je radila i u kojem je odrasla. Dobro.
to become a writer? And how did you start your writing career in Bosnia and Herzegovina?
The question of like what inspired you is all my life it's a hard question, because I don't know. I was probably born like that, a child who all the time has been feeling like, put aside, a child who, or I'm a fourth child in my family, a child who wanted to have her own world, and it was very crowded in the house. We didn't have much money to, for instance, for me to study architecture or art academy. So the only thing I had as a tools of me trying to express myself was pen and paper. So this is this was a decisive point in my life. It was a formative point of my life that we didn't have money, and I had, according to my nature, I had to choose my tools of expression. I started writing very early in the primary school. Of course, those were poems about Tito, the poems about March the 8th, about mothers. All these state celebration days were put in there, because school is always a kind of demagogy and ideology put through your mind, put through your head. So it was my start, and when the time came, my father asked me, because I was a very good student, I was a very good pupil, and my father allowed me to choose the subject of my interest. And I said I want to study literature, which was a very funny decision, because it wasn't a good decision. I cannot live upon that. I cannot live on my on my work, literary work. But it was my wish with 17 or 18, and from my 17 on, since then I write and write and write, and I'm tired of that. I'm 66 and I'm tired of that, but I cannot stop.
Thank you.
Okay.
The other question is, have you faced any challenges or obstacles as a female writer in your career, and how did you overcome them?
It is a very hard question. The first one was funny, because you cannot answer who gave you the gift of writing, for instance. But this question is a question which has been following me for all my life. I published my first poetry book when I was 20. It was very, very early in my life. And since then, I had a feeling, I have been having the feeling of being the other, of being the second one of worthy, not in my country, but in the craft of writing all the time. Before the war in Bosnia and Herzegovina, I was a very calm and very hushed person. I didn't think about that. I wanted just to write, to read all the books. First to read and then to write. This is my decision of my life, first to read and then to write. But with war, my inner desire to open myself to the world, to say that I am a poet, I'm a writer, I can make a statement about everything other people ask. This helped me to find my place under the sun and to find my place in the literature of Bosnia and Herzegovina and in ex-Yugoslavia. Because, I published 4 books during the existence of ex-Yugoslavia. So I had a name before that, but I didn't have a feeling about myself as a woman who writes. So this was a kind of a turning point in my life to know that I have a gift, to know that I'm a very good writer, to accept my femininity in any way, and to fight for my attitudes in life. It was pretty, actually, for this time, and comparing to yourself generation and to the generation of my daughter, who is 28 now, it was pretty late for me to understand what am I. But it's never late to have a fight for yourself, to struggle for any kind of rights for women, and to be a feminist. Not a feminist as a theoretically put design which I have to, get through, but to be, once I read, and I forgot the author, once I read that the best way is to be a silent feminist, to do whatever you can to feel solidarity with women and to help them to feel their femininity and to express their way of thinking.
Razgovarati o Mileni Mrazović. Dakle, dobar dan Leila, ja sam Iman. Koji je značaj Milene Mrazović, da li mi prepoznajemo danas taj značaj?
Pa, Milena Mrazović sigurno je jedna od ključnih žena iz prošlosti koje su napravile neke pomake i otvorila vrata budućim generacijama. Njen značaj je velik, kako u polju novinarstva, ali tako isto i u polju književnosti. Ona je živjela u doba Austro-Ugarske, porijeklom jeste bila Austrijanka, ali je nekako životnim putevima došla je u Sarajevo i većinom se njeno djelo vezuje za Sarajevo i Bosnu i Hercegovinu. Ona je pisala na njemačkom, tako čak mislim da je njen značaj možda malo više prepoznat u zemljama njemačkog govornog područja nego što je kod nas. O njoj se zna, ona nije totalna nepoznanica, ali naravno mislim da itekako tek sad treba istražiti njen značaj i na neki način ga i naglasiti i govoriti ovako u javnosti sve više i sve češće o tome šta je ona sve uradila za nas danas.
Kako je ta njena razvojenost od Bosne i Hercegovine utjecala na njenu djela?
Ona je zapravo, njoj Bosna i Hercegovina bila velika inspiracija i u novinarskom poslu. Ona je bila prva žena urednica jedne dnevne novine. To je u to doba bilo iznimno rijetko, a skoro pa nemoguće. To što je ona uspjela. Ona je napisala jedan putopis, on je objavljen. Samo ne znam koliko se o njemu zna, ali ta knjiga postoji. Bila je fascinirana izgradnjom željeznice u Bosni i Hercegovini i zapravo je napisala jedan putopis o tome i to je zapravo jako vrijedna i arhivska građa koju mi danas imamo. Također, bila je dosta uronjena u neku našu književnu tradiciju, pogotovo onu usmenu. Ona je prikupila i objavila bajke iz Bosne i Hercegovine i to je tad bilo objavljeno i u Austriji, zapravo u Austro-Ugarskoj, tako da je ona puno radila na promociji naše kulture, naših običaja i načina života. Nažalost, ona je umrla, živjela je duže nego što je trajalo Austro-Ugarsko carstvo ovdje. Ona je umrla u Beču, ali eto, svi ti izvori koji su nama i danas dostupni svjedoče o tome kako je nekako Sarajevo i Bosna ostala do kraja života njen žal i da je ona koristila čak i ta kasnije kad se u starosti povukla od svega, svaku priliku u Beču da promovira i govori o Sarajevu i Bosni.
Spomenuli ste da su njena djela bila pisana na njemačkom jeziku, međutim prevođena su na naš.
Da.
Možete li nam reći nešto više o tim djelima?
Dakle, najznačajnija, ja sad nisam sigurna ali mislim da sve nije prevedeno. Ono što je definitivno prevedeno, preveden je taj putopis. Sad ona je dakle pisala i za dnevnu novinu, ali koja je pisana na njemačkom jeziku tada, iako je sjedište bilo u Sarajevu, ali kažemo to je doba Austro-Ugarske. Tako da sigurno u njenom radu ima još jako puno toga što je neprevedeno i što možda je nekako zadatak naših generacija da se to istraži i prevede. Nije ona u samom slučaju, imamo još književnica koje su vezane za Sarajevo i Bosnu i Hercegovinu koje su ovdje i živjele i radile i pisale, ali nisu pisale na našem jeziku, tako da njihovo nekako djelo dobivamo posredno i znamo posredno. Eto, znači za nju je bitno da je ona jeste objavljena, ali da nije kompletan njen rad zabilježen još uvijek.
Hvala vam.
First, I thought to say we don't have so many women who were so successful, but I have to correct myself. We don't know of many women who were in our history who were that successful. And that's also a task for me and for many others who are maybe in the city council or will be in the future in the city council, many activists in Mostar, to discover our own history and to make the situation where girls from Mostar could have so many different role models and successful examples from our own history, and about whom they could dream of, becoming like they.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I don't like walking down the streets of my town and only seeing men names around, statues of men, streets named. According to some men who are, yes, I agree, some of them, most of them are really successful, but I'm missing the other part.
Of course.
And I even think that at the moment, there are probably more women than men living in Mostar. And during the history, there probably were so many more women, especially if you consider that we had several wars over the last 100 years and many men were killed. So women have been living in Mostar, have been working, struggling, helping, whatever you name it, any word, we were there. And we were equally important as all those men whose names are around us. But it can't be seen today. So that's something that I want to change. And it has been a really complex and tiring, I must say, fight, because I even think that one of the most important reasons why is that so is because our men colleagues, they don't even know, they are not aware. And that was one of the reasons why I actually, in one of our plenary sessions, when we were discussing the change of names of some streets, when I sent the initiative of naming one street according to Sister Bergman, I actually gave them a present to all men in the city hall. They are divided into ethnical clubs, Bosniaks, Serbs, and Croats. So I actually bought Women of Bosnia and Herzegovina, the book physically, and I gave it to them as a present so they could read, because I don't want to believe that they know and they are aware of all the women that we had in our past and they don't want to do anything about it. I prefer to believe that they probably don't know.
Yeah.
So I want to help them learn about it. So then can we, all of us, we can together change some things.
Yeah.
Baby steps, okay,
Of course.
but at least something is changing, you know, and that's what happened with putting the sign on the school.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not what I wanted in the first place.
What did you want originally?
Well, you know, it was like 2 years of talking about it in the city hall and trying in different ways to succeed. First, I think there was an initiative that I found 20,000 marks in the city budget to make a statute. They said no. So many reasons they gave me, but you know, nonsense. Then I said, okay, well, if you don't want a statute, then let's try something else. Let's try with the name on the street. And I'm like, no. When we were changing those fascist names of 6 streets that we had in Mostar, they said, no, this is not the right time. Let's just, you know, fix this. And then in the future, we can deal with the other topic of having more women, you know, in the names of streets.
Like an afterthought.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also they said, no, but these streets are not that important, you know. We want something bigger and more, you know, beautiful for Sister Bergman's. But then they didn't do anything for 2 years. And then in the end I said, okay, can it be just a sign? Just, you know, put a name somewhere, especially in Gymnasium building, because I think it's really important that girls who go to school to that building, at least they know about it. So they put it there. But it wasn't that easy. It wasn't only my effort, I have to say. It was also some websites, some activists, colleagues from Mostar who were really, you know, trying to keep it a hot topic somehow. And also, it's a pure coincidence, but I think when you are really working hard on something, the universe also helps you, or God, call it the way you want. So last summer I actually got a chance to meet a granddaughter of one of the 2 sisters, because the author of one of the articles that were published on Sister Bergman actually kind of followed what I was doing in the city council, and he knew one of the granddaughters who lived in Spain, and I was living in Spain, and there was some kind of weird connection, and we finally met. We talked on Facebook, and we met last summer, and then this amazing lady, her name is Saika Papo, she told me so many beautiful stories of her family.
Yeah.
And then she said, hey, listen, so I'm gonna also try something else in order to help me, right? So she went to the Jewish community in Mostar, and then she put an initiative to the Jewish community, who is sort of still, I would say, powerful in a way in Mostar. So then they went to the mayor, and then they talked to him, and in the end we got a sign. So I mean, it took us like 2 years, and initiatives from different sides. Also, I have to mention, it was supported by a local NGO called Inicijativa Građanki. So I mean, once you start talking about it, and when you start being very annoying, I would
Persistent,
say.
I would say is the word.
Yeah. Then also there are people who recognize the battle and kind of jump on the boat and help you with it. So in the end, we have this, as I said, it's a baby step, and I'm not happy it's only a small sign, but it's something. It is so.
Do you think that the position of women in the country has changed compared to the last 50 years, and how do you envision the future of women's status in Bosnia and Herzegovina to look like?
Well, I mean, the situation is definitely advancing. We do have all the necessary laws in place that guarantee equality of women, so they guarantee gender equality. The practice is something else, but the practice is based on the patriarchal notions of any society, which doesn't single out Bosnia and Herzegovina in any way. Every country in the world is a patriarchal country, so gender equality wasn't achieved in any country of the world. So we all of us still have to work collectively on this, but this is a joint social effort. So it's not enough that I make a book or you make a documentary. It's really necessary to learn about this in school. It's necessary to learn about this even from the kindergarten in order to advance women's rights in society. So objectively, when you have a legal framework in place, it puts things together and you know that you are protected by the law and you can ask for your rights, which is the case. For Bosnia, we have a very expanded and expansive legal framework that protects women's rights. The other issue is its implementation and, of course, the behavioral change and the change in attitudes. There is still a lot of violence against women. Every second woman has experienced violence since the age of 15. We're talking about various forms of violence. Women are still not equally present in leadership positions, so in the political life. So they're also not economically empowered enough the same way that men are. So these are all things that a society needs to work on collectively. So you need to have political will, you need to have societal will, and also individual will to advance this. We are lucky to have this heritage from the Second World War and from the Anti-Fascist Front of Women, actually, because we can build on that, because women here had the right to vote in the second half of 40s, which was not the case, 1940s, which was not the case with many other countries in Europe, actually. So we have a legacy. We are building onto that legacy, but we need a really, really strong advocacy to change the patriarchal ways that are still around us. That also is important to empower young women to know what their rights are, to know that they don't need to be left behind in any way, to know that they can do whatever they want, and that there is legal precedence there, legal foundation there that they can do it, they have the right to it.
How do you think literature can impact society's perception on women?
Another good and clever question. I know that fiction can have an impact of the souls who feel injustice of the world. I think literature can do that. I think the way we know how to express the feeling can help other women to think about that. First to read, then to think about that, or feel what you read. And it can change the way of thinking of the women who are not inclined to read or write. I have my, faithful, readers. Not a lot of them. I would like, tens of thousands of them, but no, I have about 500. I'm very loved by them, and I cherish my readers, especially women readers. And that would be the way to make them think, not only to be entertained by what I read about, but to think about the reason I wrote it. For instance, I also write articles for newspapers, columns. I have a book of columns. I write short stories, this is not, my literature is not about sending message, but about awakening of the people who wants to listen to me, who wants to, by reading me, who wants to think about what I wanted to say. I think, literature cannot change the world, but it can, how can I express it? To make it to make this very sharp edges of the world, to make them a little bit softer when they read about something they feel, but they cannot express. That's it.
Vera Šnajder was a mathematician who made a great contribution to the development of mathematics as a science and to the improvement of scientific staff in the field of mathematics in Bosnia and Herzegovina. She finished elementary school and classical high school in Sarajevo. She went to Belgrade in 1922, where she studied at the Faculty of Philosophy in the group for Applied Mathematics, Theoretical Mathematics, and Experimental Physics. As a talented young mathematician, she soon received a scholarship from the French government, which at the time was a great academic success because it was difficult for women to study in other countries. In 1929, she went to graduate school at the Henri Poincaré Institute in Paris and worked in the hydrodynamics laboratory at the Sorbonne. During her study stay in Paris, Vera published work in the magazine Science Reports of the Academy of Sciences and became the first person from Bosnia and Herzegovina to publish a scientific paper in mathematics. Thus, Vera became the first person from Bosnia and Herzegovina to work professionally in mathematics. Vera returned to the position of teacher at the Women's Gymnasium in Sarajevo at the end of 1932. She was a part of the left-oriented intellectual scene in Sarajevo, together with her husband, Dr. Marcel Šnajder, professor of mathematics and philosophy, who was arrested and killed at the beginning of Second World War, because he was a Jew, a leftist, and a sympathizer of communism. Easily affected by a family tragedy and in a difficult state of health, Vera took care of her then young daughter Milica, mother and brother, and at the same time participated in the People's Liberation Movement as a member of the main board of People's Front for Sarajevo. After the liberation of the country, Vera performed several educational functions in Sarajevo and dedicated her work on the restoration of education in the war-torn country. In 1950, she participated in the founding of the Faculty of Philosophy in Sarajevo and the first BIH Department of Mathematics. In 1960, the department grew into the Department of Mathematics within the newly founded Faculty of Mathematics and Sciences, where Vera taught. Vera Šnajder was the first dean of the faculty in Bosnia and Herzegovina. This made her the acting dean in Yugoslavia. She was a member of numerous educational institutions and commissions, the president of the Society of Mathematicians, Physicists, and Astronomers of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and the main organizer of the 4th Congress of Mathematicians, Physicists, and Astronomers of Yugoslavia. By developing and constantly improving the Department of Mathematics, Vera Šnajder brought mathematics to Bosnia and Herzegovina. She was an extremely respected professor who laid the foundations of the Faculty of Science and Mathematics, thus managing to integrate this scientific field into Bosnia and Herzegovina higher education. Her merits in the restoration of education after the Second World War and the improvement of young scientists in the field of mathematics will be her greatest contribution to the history of Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Do you think that society's mentality has changed in relation to women's creativity, such as the book that you wrote? And do you have any more message for young people on how to actively work to empower women in today's society?
I mean, it's changing the mentality is always a very slow process.
Right.
It requires years and years and years of, different initiatives that put issue on the map. So in order to have a real change, you need to really invest years and years of working. I know that our book changed something because I know that people were, aside from buying the book itself, they were very interested in using it in their research or showcasing it in different ways or talking to other people about it. And essentially, yes, even buying it to other people was sort of like a reach out to other people to know about what we were trying to accomplish here, which was to put back the visibility of women on the agenda and their legacy and also what is to come, because the book also contains biographies of some women who are still alive, so we can consider them to be contemporary idols, contemporary role models to all of the young girls out there who are now looking for inspiration. So a change in mentality is coming. My kind of observation is that younger people, both men and women, are more open to this change, that you see a lot more closeness to the topic and understanding this topic from younger people now, which for me is great. But it's also important to take into account that we're not, that we don't forget all of these issues that are still problematic and that we don't get caught up in them, such as violence against women, primarily violence against women, which is so easy to, fall into the trap of these stereotypes and very, very difficult social notions that women deserve the violence that they are receiving. So that's something to take into account. But just education is enough, I think, for young people to be educated and to be exposed to educational materials as much as possible. And of course to learn from other people who can share this with them, from activists, from their teachers, from historians, from, you know, all of these people who have this kind of institutional memory of what is going on and how the situation has led to that. So that's something that, you know, each and every one of us should take into account. Like individually, every day, we should try to make a difference in connection to a social matter that we think it's important, whatever it is. For me, that's feminism, but for somebody else, it might be something else. But essentially, all of this ties into the same thing, which is really equality in society, and gender equality is one of the main things that help the society prosper.
I wanted to ask how the Bergman sisters and their work have influenced you in your maybe politics and activism and social welfare. In that stratosphere, how have they influenced you?
Well, they did have an influence because, I mean, I'm allowed as somebody who works in the city council during our plenary sessions. I'm only allowed to ask or to raise 2 initiatives per plenary session, and most of the time, one of the 2 is dedicated is discussing either Sister Bergman or maybe other women who are still alive and without their rights in our city. So I think what they achieved, it's important for me, and I'm really trying to, you know, find a way how to communicate it to as many girls and women in Mostar as possible. Just in a way to see how 100 years ago, where the conditions for a woman were much harder, much more complex, I think, but they managed. And I really think that there are not so many things in the world that can't be achieved by a woman when there is a decision and a will and persistence to do it. But then, I mean, the most important thing is what I want to the message that I want to send is that it's hard when you are alone. And in this case, they were sisters, they had each other, they were helping each other. And they, from what I was told by their granddaughter, they had an amazing mother. And there's not enough told about the mom, because the mom apparently went every week. She would take a bus or a train, I don't even know, and she would go from Mostar to Sarajevo to a Ministry of Education or something similar, the institution they had 100 years ago, to knock on every door so they would allow her daughter to start with school, with high school. So that's also impressive. And I mean, it would be beautiful. I know that this Saika Papa, the granddaughter, she comes often from Spain, at least once a year during summer holidays. It would be amazing to have, you know, sort of a session with her so she can share, as she did with me, you know, how the stories from her family that she was listening while she was a kid, because we can learn a lot from that. And going back to your question, I think I'm trying to say that really it's hard to do it on your own, and we have to rely on each other. And that's one of the reasons why in the city council we have, out of 35, we only have 8 women, and from different parties. So this is the first time in modern history, I mean, as far as we know, that all 8, we had 9 of my colleagues, we sat together and we are planning our initiatives, because we think that our problems and issues that we have as women in Mostar are above all other, differences, ethnical, religious, etc. Because we are talking about healthcare, we are talking about violence against women, we are talking about so many issues, and we sit together before plenary sessions and we plan and divide and distribute the initiatives. I mean, it's all baby steps, of course, but I would also want to mention one thing. I mean, we visited the safe house for victims of violence against women, and we asked them, what can we do for you? How can we help you? And then they asked us to actually find the money in budget, city budget, to pay for their kids' daycare and kindergarten, and we did that, and it was passed. I mean, normally, if I'm the only one raising that issue in question, I'm not sure whether that would be approved. But when there's 8 or 9 women from different sides of the aisle, you know, pulling in the same direction, it gets approved. So I think that's the most important thing. That's kind of the message that I want to transmit to everybody. The sisterhood and friendships and relying on each other and helping each other to... Because if you are not okay, if you have problems because you are a woman, I can't be happy, I won't be okay. So until we solve everything, we shouldn't rest.
That's beautiful. What advice would you give to aspiring female writers who aim to make an impact on the literary scene in Bosnia and Herzegovina?
You know, it is very, very... I cannot express how very important it is to read, to educate. First, to educate about everything in the world. To go through your schools, to recognize what is ideology and what is education, what is a good information and what is a bad information you don't need. Ideology put aside. School is okay because it gives you information that you can consume without thinking, or you can consume it with the understanding what you learn. That is the first thing. So read and read and read. And then if you have an urge to write it. It can be bad. It can be mediocre. It can be whatever. But if you need, do it. Fulfill your need by writing. And if you happen to meet somebody you respect who writes, you can show it to him or to her. And you can, by reading, you can know if you wrote something worth of your labor. That's it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
In the end, do you have any last words that you would like to share about anything?
I would like to encourage everyone to learn about the important women in their community, whether it's your mom or a lady that helped children or a lady that did something else, a woman that did something else. Just learning about women's contributions to your community is really important, and carrying that legacy forward is really important because history is mostly male-oriented. In history, we will find so many information about what men were doing. We will rarely find information on women, and if we do, it's really incidental. So learning about the importance of women in your community and what they did to contribute to a community and spreading this knowledge and legacy further really helps and can definitely shape the future of the generations to come and how they will view this history one day. So history is, it's not like a joke when they say, history is the mother of everything, because that's how you remember and that's how you build on to the future. So history is very important, and we should all remember to remember it as well.
10-year-old girl perceives her homeland while watching the ocean in 95. This morning, I took a long walk through the forest which was made by J.R.R. Tolkien when he was in a real good mood. Then I sat there on the sunlit mountain slope, looking at the ocean, waiting for a huge whale to come up from all that water. But he did not show. And I ate an apple instead. Those, I think, who know what I'm writing about will not need to keep on reading these lines. And those who do not know what I'm reading about will start another war back there, far, far away, in my tiny homeland, which was also made by J.R.R. Tolkien when he was in a very good mood. But all of a sudden, somebody knocked, and he study door, and the happy ending, which was he really good at, simply slipped off his mind. After that, he died at the age 250 and never finished the story. Today, I'm awaiting him to come up from all that water. Somebody must give an end to my tiny homeland story. I do not know whether Mr. President can do something to make him return. He has, you know, those striders and all of that stuff. Anyway, I guess I will just sit here and wait for a while. I think I deserve it. I have been a good girl after all. I'm just a little bit afraid of the dark coming from far away across the ocean.